Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stardust Witch podcast. This is episode 2. So we are moving along. Before we get started on what we're talking about today, just a little bit of housekeeping. So I'm going to StarCon next week. I will be speaking about using your shadow or getting to know your shadow, I guess. And we're going to be doing some activities, tarot spreads, all that fun stuff. So that is definitely something, if you want to check it out, go to starcon.com and it's 2 A's. There are tickets still available for in-person and virtual. So there's so many ways for you to check it out. So today I wanted to talk about doing tarot readings for your house. So a house has energy, just like everything, right? And we want to do a tarot reading for a house just to kind of check in on the energy of the house. And this podcast episode actually is going to lead into a couple other ones because there's been some things I'm noticing, especially on TikTok, about homes, different things in your homes that should or shouldn't be there, should or should not be there, I should say. And it's just one of those things that I just felt like I needed to, talk about. So, why would we do a tarot reading for a house? Like I said, just to gauge the energy of the house. And really, I've done this when I do any sort of house cleansing for people or just a general kind of reading on their house. Really, it doesn't need to necessarily be a cleansing. I really found some interesting stuff out, and it really has to do with things I would never even thought about. And you can also, especially if you have older houses, those are fun. I had done one on an older house, and the older gentleman that had built the house way back when, he had a lot to say. He had a lot of opinions about what was going on in the house currently, who was living there, what they were planning on doing. And we were able to really come up with a great solution. And he was very happy. And in his request actually was very simple. It wasn't anything that was like big structural thing. He just kind of wanted a garden. His wife had gardened, and obviously she had passed before him, so he really made sure to keep the garden up. I'm assuming that's how he had connected with her. And they weren't like super big landscaping type people, so they let the garden kind of go. I think it actually was kind of done before they moved in, and that's all he wanted. He just wanted the garden redone and just something. And it didn't even need to be as plush and, as the one his wife had, but that's all he really wanted. And it wasn't like he was really, bothering them or anything like that, because it really does come down to your mindset when you are talking about the energy of anything, energy of houses and all of that stuff. If you are focused on, quote unquote, bad stuff happening or bad things coming into your house, that's literally what you're calling in, right? So if you have the mindset of this house is my safe space and everything around it, the energy around it is a safe space and is secure and safe for me and safe for everybody. And, whatever word you choose, I know the word safe can be a little weird for some people, but I think, with all of the chatter I've been experiencing lately out and about in the, internets, I think that's really a big part that is being missed, because you aren't going to, there's so many simple ways to put projections on your house if you feel like that's what you need to do. And it really is as simple as like hanging a house plant at your doorway with crystals in it. It really can be as easy as you want or as in depth as you want. That is another podcast for another day, though. I'm going to get into that pretty heavily. So, as for today, though, I just want to stick with doing stuff on doing just really a reading on your house just to kind of gauge what's going on in your house, the energy of your house. And you can use this to shift things around to maybe you do need to do some sound cleansing or smoke cleansing or put some crystals around your house, or even just talk to your house too. I think that's something that nobody is really doing and they should be doing. Like, think about this structure that shelters you, and you do all these things to the inside of it. You paint it, you take down walls, you add things, you bring in furniture, you bring in pets, you bring in other people. And asking your house how that all feels to them and how you can make it better, and even just what they like and don't like. It's really cool to see when you pull some cards what you get, because a lot of times, like I said, it's kind of things you don't expect. And I really feel that it's something, people aren't doing, don't talk about as much, and you should try it out. I think you would like it. I think it would be fun. And why not? Right. And it's not like either two. Like, you're going to pull cards and there's like some demon waiting to like inhabit you and your family. It's just not like that. As you're going into these things, just like when you go into a tarot reading, it's really for the highest and best good of all, right? Same exact thing when we are talking about our personal and sacred spaces. Same thing. If you have an altar, you go to the altar. You're not like going to the altar saying, or your sacred space, your altar, whatever you want to call it. You're not going up to it and you're not like saying, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to this altar and there's going to be bad things here. Like, why would you even have an altar? Right. So it is all about mindset. And, a lot of people do have their little rituals as they do a tarot reading or they do any sort of reading, and they do Reiki. And, it all really comes down to what feels good to you and time, because you don't need to do anything elaborate, really. If it's just like, okay, we're going to do a quick house reading, and that's totally okay. Pull out your cards and off you go. Done. If you want to light a candle, if you want to, just sit quietly for a few minutes and connect, you can do that too. And I really like to do readings. I usually sit on the floor somewhere, usually in the like general living space. So if either, and that usually winds up being the kitchen or the living room, right? Those are usually the most active places in a house. So I do like to do that. If it's an older house and there has been some structural changes to it, I will go down in the basement if it is accessible and do the reading there, because that is usually the most original part of the house and where the most energy is. Like, for me, it's kind of like, if you're thinking, it's like kind of the root chakra of the house, right? Like, if we're, again, chakras are energy centers, and it's like you can easily even assign different chakras to different rooms or anything like that. And, that's what is so great about having your own practice, developing your own practice, creating your own practice, because you do what's right for you and what feels good to you. So, with that, why don't we do a quick reading on my house? So I have a log cabin. I live on top of a mountain in the Adirondacks. And this house is probably about 15 years old. It's not an old house by any means, but the property that it's on, because it's in the Adirondack Mountains, There, obviously were natives in the area, and also there was a lot of logging trails around here. We have found horseshoes, little bits of things you can, there are some of the logging trails still going on. And if you kind of go over my mountain, they are still actively doing some logging over there. So, it must just like a company must own it, and however they do that, like every 10 years or something. So there's definitely, it's an interesting spot. It's not as old, but the property, the land itself definitely has some history to it. So what I'm going to do is I have my cards here and I'm just giving them a quick shuffle. So you can really tailor the questions any way you want. And for today, I'm just going to do some basic questions just so we can get an idea of what's going on in my house. Hopefully it's okay, because that would kind of suck if they were all like, what is going on here? But it is what it is. And I'm here for you, and we are going to do it. We're going to do it. So the first card, the first question I'm going with is, how are you today? How are you today, house? That's where we're going first. So I actually got 7 of Wands. So that's pretty interesting to me. So what I'm getting from that is that the house, I feel like, knows that there is some transition going on here and is trying to kind of decide how it feels about that transition. I feel like it's kind of going back and forth about that. So my oldest son lives in Tennessee. My second son, he is with his girlfriend, and third son is at college right now in Tennessee too. And so I have my youngest son just here. So there's been a lot of changes as far as people leaving. So I feel like my house is kind of struggling with that. Which house? I understand. I understand this. So what message do you have for me today? And that's what I'm going to ask the next question for my house here. So so we have the 6 of Swords. I guess I kind of jinxed myself, right? So I do feel like the message for today is really refocusing. I feel like that's really, the house is saying that it's time to refocus, and it's time to kind of take stock of what's going on, and maybe redoing some things, which is something we have talked about, because now that there's less people here, just kind of going through stuff, kind of doing a little bit of like material cleansing, so to speak. So that's an interesting one. So you can see, though, as you do this, like the house is really in tune to these things. You know what I mean? So next question I'm going to ask here is, what can I do for you, house? So I got the Strength card. I think that's really interesting. So for that, I'm really getting about just really staying strong as I'm cleaning stuff out. I feel like the house is ready for a cleanse. And it's ready to really be like a base, like a home base. I feel like that's really what it's saying to me right now, is it wants to be a home, my home base. And just to really kind of redo things, like kind of go through and maybe change some stuff around. And maybe as I'm cleaning stuff out, it'll just open up more space just for the flow of everything. So that's kind of interesting. I'm all right. I'm understanding. And one more card I'll pull. And the next one is, What do you want me to start with first in regards to maintenance on the house? So we'll ask that kind of question, kind of like a house health question, I guess. So let's see what we got here. We have a lot of swords. Wow. So my house is feeling a little spicy apparently today. Okay, makes sense. So we got the 5 of swords. So I really think it's just leaving stuff behind, but in a way of releasing, like just getting rid of stuff. Like I feel like it's time to get rid of stuff. So it's really funny to me because too, I have my son has a closet, and we have like a 3rd floor, like it's like a loft. And in the closet, he's the one that's in Tennessee right now at school. I don't know, there's definitely like some leftover toys. Now, mind you, he's 18. So there's like some leftover toys in there that he, obviously hasn't played with. And there's things. And that was the first thing that popped into my head when I pulled this card. So that's really funny because I guess that's where I need to start. Wow. All right. So Jen's getting called out on her house in front of everybody today. Apparently, that's what we're doing. So, yeah. So I just think it's really, it is really interesting. And these are things that kind of been on my mind. And I did kind of think to myself at one point, like, all right, I know I need to do this, but where do I start? So now the house told me where I needed to start. So it's on the list of things now. We will get there. We will do it. And excuse me, the other thing, that's really cool too is you do this reading and maybe you, like for me, so I'll clean the closet out, whatever. And then I'll do a reading afterwards just to see if like what happens, what I get from that. You can also do a reading in your doorway or in your foyer and see, ask questions like, how can I make this welcoming? Can you help me deter anyone who doesn't have good intentions? Those sort of things. So there's so many ways that you can really use it. And even I've done readings in a bedroom if somebody's having bad dreams and just about that. So it's just like it can just kind of go on. And it's a really interesting and cool thing to be able to utilize all your spaces in that way, utilize the energy of the rooms and have them help you and have them, kind of making everything cohesive, like you're all on the same page. So I think that's a really fun way to really connect with your house. And if you're somebody like maybe you just moved or, and your house doesn't feel like home just yet, and you really want to get comfortable there, you really love the space, and pull some cards on it. Just even how can we get along? What can we do to get to know each other better and that sort of thing. One other house I'd read for, it was that type of thing, was a very old house, and they were, they loved the house and they were doing what they could to really make it a home, but there was this little something, right? And I asked, what can they do to make it so that you can kind of live together and get along? And again, it's usually like aesthetic stuff, which is so interesting to me. And it was really just, I think they just wanted, the house was asking for something from the past. And this was like a very old house. So they actually went down in the closet. No, I'm sorry. They went down in the basement area and they found a really cool old lamp that they were able to clean up and they used. And it was something so simple like that. And then before you knew it, it was like the energy shifted in the house and it was theirs. And it was, they were all together. It was happy ending, all of that. Happy endings are good. So yeah, so that's, just a simple, quick little run through of doing some tarot readings for houses and the energy of houses and all of that. And like I said, I'm going to dive in a little bit more about protections for houses and all of those things. If you want, it's something if you want to do, you do. If you don't think you need it, you don't need it. It's fine. But might as well offer it out, right? Why not? And then we're going to talk a little bit too more once we do that about some of the things I've run across and my thoughts on those. So that is what we have today. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts. If you did a pull for your house, share it with me. I'd love to see it. And also keep an eye out. You want to make sure you have your notifications on because I am setting up some interviews with book and deck creators. So I'm really excited about that and you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you.